Hello and welcome to another Roundup. I've missed a few weeks recently due to holidays. A couple of weeks ago I was on holiday in Northern Ireland, which clearly hadn't received the heatwave memo. I still had a lovely time, though I can't say the same for my husband, who spent much of the week in bed with COVID. On the Small Business Big Network podcast recently, I've chatted to Phil Coley, who talked about the deaf inclusive network he runs, which sounds brilliant. Faye Dicker, who's a fellow voiceover artist who also runs the Freelance Mum network. And this week's guest is Toni Robinson, founder of the Cookie People, who has a great business startup story to share. I've recorded a couple of future episodes this week too, with Alan Ayckbourn, who trains people to use LinkedIn effectively and raises money for charity while doing so, and Amanda Coulson, the CEO of SVC Solutions, who's also an executive coach who trains people to network effectively. On Tuesday this week, I had a day out of the studio for a trip to Whitby with my friends from the local branch of Equity, the Actors Union. The reason for our trip was to see a play that's been produced by a couple of our members at the Esk Valley Theatre. The theatre company take over Glaisdale Community Hall for a month and put on professional theatre for local people, or not so local in our case. The play is called All Lies by Alan Ayckbourn and looks at the lies people tell about themselves to make them seem more interesting. I can highly recommend it. As well as seeing the play, we also had lunch at the Humble Pie and Mash shop in Whitby, a paddle in the sea and an ice cream, of course. The monthly Wired Curry meetups that I go to take a break in August, but a breakaway group of members decided to meet anyway and try the new Indian restaurant in my home village, Ulsby. The food at Abdul's Kitchen was fantastic and they looked after my vegan daughter very well, explaining what they could make for her, which was plenty as it turned out. The full Wired Curry meetups will return in the autumn, so if you're in the creative and digital sector in Northern Lincolnshire or East Yorkshire and you want to try it out, then get in touch with Les Selby. Yesterday I had a lovely catch-up via Zoom with Lindsay Linder, who's recently started a new role with Optimum Safety. Lindsay formerly worked at Hunt's Coaches and was a podcast guest a while ago. Once she's settled into her new job, I'll get her back on the podcast to talk about how she's finding networking for a different company. The Supporting Women in Industry Surrounding the Humber, or SWISH network, started up again a couple of months ago, and yesterday I went along to my first meeting since before the pandemic. The organiser, Susie Gray, now works for James Legal in Hull, and they very kindly let us use their meeting room. The speaker was Rayanne Rooms, who talked about transferable skills and all the things she's learned over the years from her various jobs and hobbies. I don't quite know how she's managed to pack so many things into her life so far. This morning I've been to a meeting of the Business Growth Community, which is run by Nikki Thomas, another former podcast guest. The meeting I attended was at the University campus of North Lincolnshire in Scunthorpe, but there are meetings at various locations around the country as well as online. It was a great meeting, and although there were 2 or 3 familiar faces there, including Gary Mumby from the Productivity Hub, most of the people I hadn't met before, which is rare for a meeting in my home county. That's all for this week. Have a great weekend and join me again next time for another Roundup.